Alpine took a huge risk when they signed Pierre Gasly to their team last year. I'm not talking about his driving ability. I've no doubt he'll be an excellent addition to the team. I'm talking about the fact that he's one crash away from a race ban, something that has never happened before. Alpine have been trying to solve the issue, but their competitors put them firmly back in their place. Today, we'll be covering Pierre Gasly's penalty point problem, and who else could be at risk of a race ban, so don't go anywhere. Penalty points were introduced in 2014 to the drivers' super licenses. I don't know how it works where you're from, but here in the UK, if we break the law while driving, we get points on our license. This could be things like speeding, going through a red light, or causing a collision. If you get too many points, you get a ban from driving. The FIA introduced a very similar system. Penalty points are handed to F1 drivers if they do something that the FIA consider to be dangerous. This could be causing a collision, ignoring yellow flags, or even driving too fast under the safety car. When a driver receives a penalty point, they remain on their license for a year before expiring. However, there is big trouble if you total up to 12 of these points over the space of a year. Simply put, you earn yourself a race ban. Until the winter break, the FIA system was far from perfect. No surprise there. Drivers were getting penalty points for things like exceeding track limits too many times, or falling too far behind the car in front during a safety car period. Definitely not dangerous and not worthy of a race ban either. A 5-second penalty would probably suffice for both, but for whatever reason, the FIA thought those offences deserved a harsher punishment. One such driver who fell foul of the incredibly harsh penalty points rules last season was Pierre Gasly. He picked up a point in Austria in 2022 for exceeding track limits, and then at the United States Grand Prix, he fell more than 10 car lengths behind the safety car, securing himself another 2 penalty points. At the moment, he sits at a total of 10 penalty points. If he causes a collision with another driver at any point in the coming races, he'll receive a 1-race ban, something that he and Alpine really don't want to happen. With some of his points coming from minor offences like track limits, his situation prompted discussion over the winter about whether the system needed a rethink to ensure innocent drivers do not fall foul of a rule originally intended to eradicate dangerous driving. Fortunately for the drivers and us, the FIA has agreed to change the way in which penalty points are distributed from the start of the 2023 season. From now on, rather than offences like breaching track limits being included, points will only be given out for specific cases of dangerous driving. While that is good news for drivers with a lot of points, as it minimises the risk of innocent mistakes pushing them over the limit for a race ban, there remains some unease about the situation. That much was clear when Gasly, who was outspoken about the matter last year, did not seem impressed with the latest state of affairs. Asked in Saudi Arabia if he welcomed the new way that points were given out, he said, "I won't even answer that question. You get it," meaning my response, "the way that you want, but I won't make a comment." A surprising response from a driver who got what he wanted from the FIA. No more points for track limits or falling too far behind the safety car is a good thing, surely. Well, Pierre was after something else from the FIA this winter. Alpine had been hoping that the change to how points are given out would be applied retrospectively. This would have reduced Pierre from 10 points to 7, far further away from a ban than he is at the moment. Alpine team boss Otmar Szafnauer is clear that if the FIA has accepted that handing out penalty points for track limits is wrong, then those drivers who have been punished for them should have those points removed. There's 2 elements to the rule, Szafnauer said. 1. Going forward, what should you get penalty points for? And I think it's right that you should get penalty points for not things like track limits, but dangerous driving, which was always the intent. I don't know how things like track limits or being too far away from the safety car ever got in there, because it's not dangerous driving. Anyway, that's one thing, and I agree with the FIA's new interpretation. This point of view was pretty universal across the grid. There were plenty of comments saying that the drivers knew the rules and should have adhered to them, which is definitely true, but the rule was unnecessary. Otmar continued by saying, "Now, should that be retroactive? I'm always going to say yes, mainly because I think that's fair. If we all stand up, raise our hands and say we made a mistake, then correct the mistake looking backwards, not just looking forwards." It has emerged that Szafnauer brought the matter up in the most recent meeting of the F1 Commission and proposed the idea of drivers having points earned from minor offences wiped off their licences. While some of Alpine's competitors thought it was a good idea, the matter did not get the majority support needed to be implemented. Speaking about his proposal, Szafnauer said, "I was in the minority. There were probably 3 or 4 out of the 10 teams that supported it. Some of those that did not admitted the reason they're not supporting it was for opportunistic reasons, hoping that something happens to us. I'm not sure how much I believe this. Not the part about the teams being opportunistic and not voting for it because they wanted Gasly banned for a race. That sounds exactly like the kind of thing an F1 team principal would do. It's the admitting to Otmar that that is why they didn't vote for it I find hard to believe. Safnauer admitted that there was little hope of being able to convince rival teams to change their mind over the matter. So despite the change in the rules, Alpine is still at risk of losing Pierre for a race this season. Gasly's 10 licence points have come from a mixture of driving incidents and sporting rule breaches. The 6 points he has for collisions last year with Lance Stroll in Spain and Sebastian Vettel in Austria, plus not slowing for the red flag in the Japanese Grand Prix, would all have earned the same sanction under the new FIA approach. However, the 2 points he earned for leaving too big a gap behind the safety car in Austin and the point for a track's limits breach in Austria would likely not have been given out. The point for running off track and gaining an advantage in Mexico as he battled Stroll is up for debate, but probably wouldn't have been given either. The points do get removed from a driver's license after a year, but that doesn't help Pierre at the moment. The first points to come off his license are for causing a collision with Lance Stroll at the Spanish Grand Prix on the 22nd of May. That means that Pierre has to make it through Australia, Azerbaijan, Miami and Imola without picking up 2 points or he'll get a race ban. You get 2 points for causing a collision, so Pierre is going to have to be careful. No driver has ever been banned for penalty point offences, and Gasly definitely doesn't want to become the first. He's also the only driver that is in any real risk of receiving a ban as well. Lance Stroll has the second most with 8 points on his licence, but 3 of those will be removed after the Australian Grand Prix. After him is Fernando Alonso with 6 points, but he'll lose 3 of his in 3 rounds' time. Even with those 2 points coming off in 4 rounds' time, Gasly is hardly in the clear. The next ones to come off his licence will be the 2 he got on the 10th of July in 2022 for causing a collision with Sebastian Vettel during the Austrian Grand Prix. They won't get removed until after Silverstone in 9 rounds' time. So how much of a problem is this going to cause Pierre? Pierre is naturally quite an aggressive driver, but he's very good at it. While in Red Bull's B teams, he picked up 3 podiums, one of which was a race win, something that should never have been possible. He did that thanks to some impressive overtaking, as well as some incredible driving ability. That aggressiveness that has made him a race winner is also his biggest weakness, or has been in years past. He didn't pick up as many penalty points as he has without having a tendency to cause a collision. He has looked more mature in recent years, and perhaps the frustration of driving in a subpar AlphaTauri last season could be blamed for a few of his collisions. Nonetheless, he is having to adapt his driving style to the situation he's in, and that is going to hamstring him for many races to come. Do you think Pierre can avoid picking up a race ban? Or will the penalty point system finally take its first victim? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.